So I have the Rubaiyat. Let's see, I'm getting some funny messages from this thing. Well, never mind the funny messages for now. Okay, Rubaiyat, stanza 67. We are coming down the home stretch. There are 75 stanzas of the Rubaiyat, and we'll keep announcing this in the next days ahead, but we're thinking to move on to excerpts from the original lessons of Paramahansa Yogananda that he wrote in the 1920s, to take excerpts from those lessons and share them. But today we are on quatrain 67. I'll read it, then we'll play Swami Kriyananda singing it. Now, the various quatrains of the last week or so, where the little pots in the pottery shop were talking to one another, asking the big questions of life, that phase of the quatrains is now finished. And now as we move towards the end, it seems like the quatrains have turned themselves into a prayer of sorts. So Omar writes, with the English translation by Edwin Fitzgerald, "Ah, with the grape my fading life provide, and wash my body whence the life has died, and in a winding sheet of vine leaf wrapped, so bury me by some sweet garden side."
Stanza 67. Ah, with the grape my fading life provide, and wash my body whence the life has died, and in a winding sheet of vine leaf wrapped, so bury me by some sweet garden side. Paraphrase. Omar prays to God. As sensory awareness fades from my body, O Infinite One, may I be born into divine ecstasy. Bathe my body consciousness, from which all earthly desires have fled, with divine wine. Let my body hold only the vibrations of thy spirit. Raise me from body consciousness into a new life in thee. Wrap my ego in the vine leaf of blissful, divine perceptions, that I be engrossed only in noble experiences. Let me rest in the garden of cosmic consciousness, there to enjoy through eternity the blossoms of ever-beautiful divine life.
I wanted to read this time the keys to meaning. I haven't often read these, but when Yogananda first did the interpretations, at the end of each quatrain, after giving the paraphrase and an expanded meaning, he would give the keys to the meaning of the individual words or phrases in the quatrain. So I'm going to read those. Ah, with the grape, he writes, ah, with the tonic of divine perception, my fading life provide, renew me with youthfulness of the spirit, and wash my body whence the life has died, and with divine healing rays, bathe my body from which, purged by wisdom, all my earthly desires have disappeared. In a winding sheet of vine leaf wrapped, protected by the power of divine perception, bury me, keep my physical ego under the control of the spirit, by some sweet garden side, in the joy of universal oneness and divine fellowship. So this is, he writes, Yogananda writes, this can be interpreted as a prayer uttered at the time of death, but it can also be a kind of prayer every time we go into meditation, which is to say, a prayer for divine ecstasy, even a prayer for to feel the divine presence as we go into meditation. A prayer demand, if you will, a prayer that all earthly desires be washed away, and that the ego be wrapped or transmuted into the soul. And so Swami Kriyananda added a little paragraph here. He says, further application. He writes, true spiritual teachings can be applied on every level. And in our outward lives, therefore, this prayer in the quatrain, let's draw all of our strength from within ourselves. Bathe daily, he writes, in a rainbow waterfall of purifying thoughts, and cleanse our matter consciousness with divine healing rays. Wrap our egos in unselfish love, and bury our shortcomings in a flower of a garden of true friendship as we offer service lovingly to all. This is a beautiful prayer, unquestionably. It's a prayer that in one form or another, with whatever words or no words, we should utter every day as we arise from the subconscious state of sleep, and even as we go back into that subconscious state at the end of our day. We should offer ourselves back to spirit from which we have come. Swami Kriyananda would often say in his talks that every night before going to bed, I don't know if he meant while sitting in meditation or whether lying, quote, trying to sleep, he said, create a mental bonfire at the spiritual eye and toss into that bonfire in recollectedness all of the activities of that day, and especially take a mental note of any time during the day when your words were harsh or irritable or crude or whatever, not appropriate spiritually speaking. Any shortcomings, or as he would put it, any attachments we had to either doing a job well that day or having been chewed out by our superior or our spouse, whatever it might be, offer those into the bonfire as a hillman tending his sheep for weeks during the summer months in the high country might pick off bugs and ticks and throw them into the fire at night before resting. And so this prayer of the quatrain is the prayer for divine consciousness. It's a prayer for upliftment. It's a prayer to purify and purge and cleanse and clarify all lesser goals, all lesser attachments, and even past actions that would hold us back from achieving even a touch of the superconscious state of our soul. That superconscious state has, Yogananda taught, 8 different varieties, 8 different aspects, all of which are intertwined but can be discreetly discerned by the soul. And they are in alignment with the energy centers known as the chakras. Coming up the chakras, they are peace, wisdom, energy, love, calmness, the inner sound, especially the sound of Om, the Jyoti, the inner light, especially the spiritual eye, and finally the bliss nature of the soul. And so we should pray for superconscious experience, not as a beggar, but as a son or child of God. This is our true state. And as we yearn for these states, as we yearn for this perfection, this experience that is unbroken, untrammeled, unconditioned, then we, in effect, are attuning ourselves to this higher state. And in attuning ourselves through love and really the desire to have them, not the greedy desire, not the grasping, beggarly desire, but the intuitive realization that this is our true home, then we draw by the magnetism of our yearning those states. And when those states come, when ecstasy comes, Yogananda once said to Swami Kriyananda, all other things flee. When we achieve the state of ecstasy by degrees, then when we have achieved that, and when we have access to that, then we can work out all of our past karma. We don't have to work out every little piddling, scrupulous kind of issue. Let us instead, and this is the new dispensation, let us instead focus on the divinity within ourselves, the divinity within everyone. And as we focus on the positive, the negative takes a second seat. It gets sent to the back of the bus, if you'll pardon me. So this is the prayer, and this is a universal prayer that he gives us. Ah, with the grape my fading life provide, and wash my body whence the life has died, and in a winding sheet of vine leaf wrapped, so bury me in some sweet garden side. So whether upon entering meditation or at the end of your life, as you lay awaiting your transition into a higher life, let us pray. Okay, keep in mind our upcoming series on the original lessons of Paramahansa Yogananda and spread the word. Okay, I don't have a date for when those start, but not too long.